Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be doing another review session. So if you haven't seen these before, these are new to the channel. We take a file that's been sent to us from a Patreon, and there's normally something that they can't do in there, or there's some problems in there, and we'll look at the actual file itself. Just look through the file quickly to see if we can suggest any improvements, look at the techniques that are used, and also try to fix the problem. So today we're going to be looking at a cockpit. So this is the original. So you can see we've got a few problems with surfacing in here. And here's the finished result. So a nice clean surface. Can be improved a bit more, but I think that's enough to actually get us started. So let's have a look at the original request and see what we can do with this. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to the site. I also have a Ko-Fi or a coffee site that you can donate to if you so desire, and that's at ko-fi.com/MANG0. I also run a Patreon where you can subscribe and get extra content, and that's at www.patreon.com/MangoJellySolutions. Any money that's kindly donated will be used to expand the channel. So let's first look at the problem. So it says here, I finished the shape after a lot of alterations to the placement of the section profiles. Even with all the surface tension and precision turned down as far as it will allow, it still is not very good in my opinion. I wish I could loft a shape along the three given rails. The thing is, it isn't so bad that the shape is a little rough, but I want to generate G-code from it from the YCNC router. That did not work up to now. Maybe it's because the shape is not fully closed, so the front and end not having a bottom, which could be easily remedied. So that's okay, we can do that. And we'll look through these others as well. But first of all, we're going to have a look at the file and see what's in there. So this is a file. You can see we've got the loft. And we can see the texturing on that loft, the bumping on that loft. So that's probably one of the issues. Let's hide that. And let's go up. So we've got the sketch base right and the sketch side, which is the top one. So these are basically rails to follow. I can see what you mean, that you would like almost like a profile here that will span these and ultimately go this way along here. We next have a number of datum planes. So we've got these datum planes here, including these sketch profiles. What I'm going to do is come up to the view, panels and selection view, and let's just hide all of those, all the datum planes, and I'll hide these three as well, just clicking on the first one, shift clicking the other one, hide it, so we haven't got anything there. And in the search we're going to start typing in here, so let's make sure nothing's selected and type in sketch, and as you can see our selection view is filled with results, and these are all the sketches in there. So when we end up clicking in here, they're all selected. Now I've got them all selected, if I press the space bar, that shows them all. And also we can come in here and change the properties of them all, because they're all selected. You can come in down to the view and look at like shape color, shape size, etc., point size, and we can change these as one. So we can bring up the point size, change the shape color, etc., etc. So section view is pretty useful. I don't use it enough in my tutorials. I should start using those. So we can see that we've got those there. There is, as we look around it, we've got, you can see what's been going on. It gives you a good idea of how people have been battling with their model when you start seeing stuff like this where you've got these additional sections. So if we look, we've got a number of datum planes here and these sections. I don't normally use datum planes because normally what you can do is add the sketch directly to the rails that go along here. Because we've sectioned them up, we've got points that we can do a translate origin against. Now, if we look how these sketches are made up, that's the front one. Let's come down to sketch 3. They're created with a B-spline. So, and we've got symmetry against the other side as well. So when we move one, if I can get hold of it, the other side moves as well, so you get this effect, which keeps everything in sync. If we look down, we can see that as it comes down, we've got quite a sudden change in profiles here. There are quite a few profiles, and it's obvious you've been fighting against curvature of this. We don't need this many profiles, we can actually remove some. And I think that's indicative of trying to fix that surface. So some little changes in there we can do. One thing to remember is that when we come into the surfacing, I show that loft, I'll close that panel because we don't need that anymore, is that the surface will follow these elbows of these curves. So if we draw a line through all the elbows of the curves, they'll end up connecting to each other. So if we have something violent that's in here like this, you can see we've got some pinching in here, and this is what's happening. The elbow of the curve is coming down and connecting up down here. So we've got this violent pinching in here, and this pulls the surface in, and you can see that pinching around there. So let's go into this a bit more deeply and see if we can fix the surface. So let's see what we've got. We've got this loft. If I come over to a workbench called the Curves Workbench, this is installed through the Tools Add-on Manager. So come into the Curves Workbench, we have a nice little tool in here called the Zebra tool. If I click that, this shows you the imperfections and the smoothness of your surface. So we can see we've got a few problems in there. This can be down to a number of things, but there are 2 or 3 things that can be. 1 is profile placement, 2 is deviation, and 3 is degree. So let's first have a look by quitting out the Zebra tools and coming down to the loft. Well, let's first look at the degree. So coming to the loft and look at the data. Max degree is 2, so that's the lowest it can go. Sometimes this can be up to 4, and you'll get some weirdness that starts over here or at the ends. And you can see we've got some more bumpiness going across there. Come back to the loft, change this max degree down to 2. You can see that's gone away now. What I'm going to do is come up to the preferences so it doesn't flicker all the time, because I'm going to be pointing to the screen, and come into the enable pre-selection highlighting. So that means when I OK that, when I hover over this, I'm not pre-selecting it, but when I select it here, you can see I select it. We have to turn this off in a minute. So I'm just pointing at this so we can see what's going on. We haven't got that flashing all the time. Now, we know it's not the max degree. Let's come into that loft and look at the view. Come down and we should see our deviation settings. So it's under object style, and we've got the deviation here is 0.5. That's the default deviation. We can change that in our preferences as well. So if we change the quality by bringing this down even further, 0.05, now when we look at this, it's much cleaner. So we've got a much cleaner surface. Come into the curves, look at the Zebra tool. You can see how much cleaner that surface is. This line isn't jagged and broken like it was before. Still some work to do. And that is probably due to profiling. I mean, that to me is clean enough. We've got some pinching here. So one other tool we can use, if I click on it, is the ISO curve. So with this one here, or surfaces, ISO curve, this gives you a view of what's going on with the U and V. So we've got U that goes, not sure which way U goes with this model, but we can see that we've got these lines that show what we're dealing with. So let's come into the ISO curve, look at the data and bring up the amount of U. So change it to 8, and you can see all those lines going across there. So this will show you problematic profiles. So straight away I can see we got a problem in here. If we look, we've got a very small profile in here, really small one. And we don't have to use a profile like this. Also, it's got some problems in here because I can see this is closed. Let's come into the loft. That tells me that the solid is set to true, but it's not a solid, it's an actual surface, so it's set to false. So that's better. Therefore, we can see what's going on in here. The good thing about this is, I know it's in a body, which is not needed because we're actually using a part loft, so we can actually get rid of that body. We'll leave it in there for the time being. Because we're using part loft, this is much more flexible than a part design loft, in that we don't have to use profiles like this. We can use a point. So I'm going to find that profile. Let's have a look. And as we roll over, we can actually see which ones these are. So let's roll over this one. Let's hide this loft so I can see much more clearer. And press the spacebar on sketch profile 1, which is the right one. Let's see the next one. So that one. So let's double click this profile and have a look. So it has a symmetrically constrained B-spline in here. Let's get rid of that. And what I'm going to do is use a point. So let's create point here. Let's create it over here so we can see what we're doing. See, it's red. That means it's construction geometry. For points, the default is construction. So we use the toggle construction geometry. Click on that. That becomes white. So we'll be able to see that and use that outside of the SketchUp. You can click that, click the center, and make it coincident, and close that now. Let's go down, and you can see the ISO curves are all converging against one point now. So rather than having the circle, they're converging against that point. This still means we've got the pucker in, but we can close that there. Now, this sketch profile 1A, we may want to remove that because we obviously got a number of profiles in there. So let's delete that, and yes from the loft, so that removes it from the loft. We've got a much cleaner transition now. So you can see how much cleaner that transition is because we had quite a violent line there. We can use this line here to see if we're on track. Now the other thing is, notice how jagged this line is. So this is part of the sketch, not that one. Let's come back up. And we got sketch base left, sketch base side, which is this one. And again, I'm going to come into the view and look at the deviation and change this to 0.05 as well. So we've got that one there. Let's come down and bring in the loft. Make that visible. There is there. Press the spacebar. So it's looking better. I may want to add that profile back in so it pushes it out further. Or I might want to experiment with the profile. So we have a point. We could use, say, let's get rid of that point and use, let's say, a small line. So we can use a line that goes across here, like so. And we can experiment with points, lines, etc. So that's created a straight line there. Let's get rid of that. ISO curve, let's press the spacebar on that and come up to the sketch profile, press the spacebar, and you can see we're now gone straight across there. We could also like angle the sketch this way and create a curve and curve this off. Depends what you want to go for. So we've got that one there. Let's just check on the zebra. There we go. So quite smooth there. And it comes to a point over this side. We've got a very small profile in there as well. I don't know if that wants to be kept. We can close that up again by using a point. I'm not sure if you want to come all the way to here. We could do exactly the same as the front if you wanted to do that. but we'll leave that profile in there for the time being. But we'll go about closing this now. So to close this, let's come over to the part. The reason why I want to close this is to make it a solid. At the moment it is a shell. If it was double walled, then it would be a solid. So I'm going to come into the model and we're going to come up to the top and just hide these, because I want to get to these here, these edges. And I'm going to come into the edit preference and turn back on my navigation colors. This one here, enable pre-selecting highlighting. This one here. Let's apply that and OK. So there we go. So now what I want to do is select this edge in the part workbench, select this edge. Now you can see, because we've used this line here, then the ruled surface is not going to work. If I used a point, then it would. If that was the case, then I would have to use the surface workbench and do it via there. But what I'm going to do is just change that back to a point. So sketch profile 01, that's a good theme because it's just a single. So let's change back. And what we get now is, you can see that we've got that one there, that line there. And coming around to the other side, we've got the other one. Control select the other one, and we'll create a ruled surface across those. So that's ruled surface that. I can see we've got some puckering at that point there. So let's just check that loft deviation 0.05. That's better. And I can play with that profile, that point, you can see just there. And we may want to set the position, because it's attached, it belongs to Z, so we can move that. And as we move it, and I just hit refresh, you can see what's happening. So I can move that into position using increments of 1, or we can just do 0.50 in there. We'll get that nicely positioned how we want. And the ruled surface moves with it. So we also got this side as well. So it's worth doing the bottom ruled surface first. You see we have this here. So we could do a ruled surface against this one and this one just to close that, like so. Just lost it now, there we go. So we got a little surface in there. That means that when we take all these and connect them up together, we can actually create a solid. Now, I would advise doing that via the curves workbench, because we have something called a parametric solid in here. So in MISC, we have parametric solid. That means we can take all these items, including the loft, so come into the ruled surface, the loft, the ruled surface, and the other ruled surface, and come into MISC, parametric solid. Now you see we've got a problem. It's not turned into a solid, it's turned into a shell. So let's delete that and see what we've got. And make sure the others are visible. So if I come into here, this looks fine. Let's click on our loft and change that solid to true. And try that again. You see it's changed to a compound. It's not good. Sometimes what happens is that you may see that we get another face in here. So if I drop this down, I'm on the ruled surface. If I drop this down and place reversed or forward, you get this line. That's where the ruled surface has twisted, and you can see what that line's done. So you can see it's twisted around. So we just changed the orientation around the other way to get rid of that. But that's fine on this one. May not be able to see on the back one, so I can see this now. So we got this here, so that means that loft. Let's take that solid to false. Let's get rid of that, and let's make sure that the end ruled surface, this one here, so that forward, and try that again. So I'm just control clicking them from the screen. MISC, parametric solid. There we go. That's done that. Now you can see that we've basically got a very weird display, and that's because we got the solid and all of our surfaces still visible. So highlight them all and press the space bar. Now we've got our solid, and again you may see some problems with the deviation, so make sure your deviation is set up. This can be changed in the preferences. It does take more computation power, but now this is a solid. You can see that's turned green, and you look at the data and it's a solid. So I tend to use the one in the curves workbench because it's parametric. If you was doing this, say, from the part, you would click all of these, let's bring them back, go to the part, just press the spacebar to show those. Control click all of them, create them as a compound, and then use that compound part, convert to solid, like so. But this is not parametric. So you can see that if I deleted this one, that one will still stay. So I tend to use the curves workbench solid from there. And we've still got some stuff that's visible. So let's come into that ruled surface and hide those two that are in there. So that's it. We should have a nice clean solid over in the curves workbench. And there we go, nice and clean. And from there we can move forward to our next step in creating this model. So I hope that's helped, and this will be sent off to the viewer first before being released to the channel. Please note that I am doing this for patrons as priority, so I may not be able to get the sheer amounts of emails that I've got. Please be aware of that. If you're a patron, you'll get fast tracked. Hope that's useful, and I hope to see you again soon.
If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to the site. I also have a Ko-Fi or a Ko-Fi site that you can donate to if you so desire, and that's at ko-fi.com/MANG0. I also run a Patreon where you can subscribe and get extra content, and that's at www.patreon.com/MangoJellySolutions. Any money that's kindly donated will be used to expand the channel. Thanks a lot for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you again soon.